gentlemen, I just want to remind you that we actually have an email list and we would love you to join us. If you want to sign up, go to www.thewizardandthepriestess.com and find your sign up button. Join us today. Ladies and gentlemen, we are the Wizard and the Priestess.
Hello.
Hello.
Everyone.
So last week we really dived down deep into the spirit realms, spirit layers, or dived up.
We went through the densities, didn't we?
Yeah, well, we kind of elevated, right?
We did.
So what I wanted to dive into this week is how we can utilize it. So whilst we kind of connected to our alien self and our alien beings or consciousness,
or Tony.
and Tony and the Pharaoh, all the pieces, I think, so it's sort of this coming to, and how can we use it? So let me just throw that to you. How can we use this knowledge of consciousness to our...
How do we use this knowledge of consciousness? First of all...
Can I just take a side note? Love your shirt, Matt.
We got that on camera and microphone.
Good.
It's the nicest thing you've ever said to me. Hang on, let me just have this moment.
Is it really that good?
This moment here is how we can use all that.
Done. Mic drop. All right,
all
next.
All it took was a T-shirt. So happy I could finally make you happy. What was the question again?
I was wondering, how can we use all this knowledge of consciousness and levels of densities and dimensions to our greater, to help us in this moment, in this 3D experience?
Why do you... I won't answer a question with a question because that's just annoying. And then you'll reverse your T-shirt comment.
Never.
We can use that to know ourselves, experience ourselves, know ourselves, accept ourselves, experience ourselves, give the universe something that only we can give. Now, as Joseph Campbell said, the privilege of a lifetime is being yourself. So how good do you feel when you can just be completely 100% yourself?
Oh, yeah, you feel great.
So that's how you can use that, and that's arguably what it's for. So when we incarnate, we go through that forgetting process where the veil is, say, put down.
Yeah.
As it's put down, we forget who we are, where we're from, etc. And we go through this journey with, little contracts and lessons, and we have, as we spoke about last time, little breadcrumb trail for us to follow, sometimes to avoid. And that is all designed to lead you to you. And that is what religion is supposed to be about. Because the word religion means reunion, or to link back to, but it means to link back to you. So everything you do or think or say ultimately comes back to you. So that's the original thought to create.
Beautiful.
Thanks, man.
And if someone were to say, want to go deeper, want to connect to, for example, personally, I can find that through meditation, through some form of feeling or idea, I definitely follow the breadcrumb trail.
Yep.
However, I think that for some people that can be really difficult to identify. Is this the breadcrumb trail? Am I actually moving in that way, or am I not? So how can we connect more? Maybe how can we connect to?
Well, the first thing we need
self?
to do is get healthy. We need to be clean. Our vessel needs to be clean so it becomes a vehicle that runs efficiently rather than It'd be the equivalent of putting the wrong kind of petrol or diesel into your car. So therefore the vehicle doesn't run properly. It's hard to connect to a subtle plane, if you will, when you can't even connect to yourself.
And what is connecting to self, like your physical being?
Firstly, it is essentially feeding your body how it's designed to be fed.
Yep.
It is drinking clean water.
Right.
It's
so
being healthy.
Being healthy. So do the things that we've shared numerous times. Episodes
2, 3, 4, 5?
It's not that many.
No, 2, 3, 4.
2, 3, 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The first point of enlightenment
Yeah.
is listens to episodes 2, 3, and 4.
Okay.
That is an absolute must for everyone.
Okay.
Like, comment, share. Otherwise, it just simply won't have it.
Cool.
So then once you've cleaned vessels, that allows your perception to be clear.
Yeah, okay. So the aim of that is to create a clear perception.
Yes, because your physical body is the creature of the mind. So whatever you feel physically is arguably what you would call in fourth density a thought form. So if you're feeling sick or ill or you have a diagnosed disease, then they would call that thought form that's manifested into physical illness.
Yeah.
So if that polarity exists, its opposite must also exist.
Yeah.
It requires energy, it requires intention,
Yeah.
desire and will to go that path.
Yeah, and I think that's something which is really interesting. Like I was saying last time, I feel like my path was towards motherhood, and it is in the sense of like teaching my children. So even last week I had a conversation with my oldest child and we were talking about she's got a bit of an obsession with surgery at the moment and wants to know like why people have surgery and whether surgery would hurt. And I've explained to her that, yes, surgery would hurt. There's things such as anaesthetics that stop the pain specifically, and that's a medication that stops the pain so that because she had a secateurs and she was cutting in the garden, she's like, so this, if I cut my finger off, would hurt. And I'm like, yeah, you know it would hurt. She's like, so that's like surgery. And I'm like, yes, it is. And she goes, but why would people do surgery then? And that's an interesting perspective from a Chinese medicine practitioner's perspective, because we actually don't really truly believe in surgery. We believe in the body's ability to heal.
Yeah.
And so I explained to her just that idea of when you graze your knee, you trust that it's going to heal. Then if we constantly graze part of our body but we can't see it or we're ignoring it, we're not connected to that sore that actually really hurts. We're ignoring that pain or that signal that's telling us there's something wrong, and we just keep doing, well, then eventually there might be a growth that then someone might suggest you have surgically removed. And I don't know how much of it sunk in, but then later on she would had tied something to her body and she's like, so if I had surgery I could I'd cut this off. And I'm like, well, yeah, you would, but we could also trust your body to do that job if we got it into the right environment. And now I'm not suggesting that anyone stops treatments or anything like that in order to do that. But however, where we get to is based upon, from my perspective, the thoughts that we've planted. What did we say?
Which is also interesting because our entire culture is conditioned to think, well, if you're sick, we can just cut it out.
Yeah.
And
or medicate it.
Yeah.
I saw a mum blogger the other day just literally blanket. If you have hay fever, your children have 30 to 50% chance of having allergies. Therefore, consider Zyrtec. And I thought to myself, wow, what an interesting analogy.
Interesting is a great word.
To just start a young child on a process. And I'm not saying that might not be something to use in whatever, if that's something that you feel is necessary. But it also feels like we are now moving marketing of drugs onto social media, and there is absolutely no law against it.
No.
You're just being an influencer, and if you've claimed that you're getting paid, then that's fine. But it's just like, wow, like in Australia, actually on our TV, you cannot I mean, they do it anyway, right?
What's that?
You're not meant to advertise drugs on TV.
They still do.
They still do, but there is like they've always got the
it's like-
disclaimer at the
yeah,
bottom,
okay,
and
yeah. I think it's between certain times as well.
potentially that. I don't watch TV so often, so I don't really know. But yeah, take it away.
So how do we get there? How do we connect to that part of us? Well, it's the perception is reality, right? So it's when we spoke about sabotage a few episodes ago, we were talking about, is that really true? Now, the thing that's going to set that seed up is our prior biases to what we believe, right, wrong, good, bad, what's true, what's not, etc. So all those things are going to come into play of how we perceive and how we essentially connect. Because when it really comes down to it, we can call it connection to spirit, connection to the higher self, connection to God, if you want to go down that subscription. Ultimately, it's connecting to yourself, no matter how you slice it. In the end of the day, it's you experiencing you.
Yeah. So how can we do that?
Well, firstly, again, start with the physical. That's probably
We've
the
done
easiest.
that part.
Okay. Then we can detox thoughts by looking at our thoughts, writing them down if we need to, voice recording them, however works. And if you have the discipline, you can meditate on the thought. Is that thought happy? Does it make you feel good? If it makes you feel like absolute shit, it's probably not for you. And yes, you might be involved in a certain situation where somehow you've got yourself into, but is that forever? And what capacity do you have to move through that? What have you learnt from that? And what's the likelihood of that ever happening again? So challenging the thought. Because when you challenge the thought, you challenge the belief, which ultimately affects the direct outcome of connection. You can do the same with emotions. Now, when you get into the spiritual, we'll call it detox, a spiritual, I don't want to use the word problem, but for lack of a better word right now, we'll call it a spiritual problem.
Or someone's lack of connection to spirit. Could
Well,
that
yeah,
be the
but
problem?
some people just aren't that way tuned or inclined, which is fine. But it's more of a, when you do something consciously that you know you shouldn't do,
Oh, yeah.
that's a spiritual thing. That's like a disconnect between you and your spiritual self for sure.
Yeah.
And that subtle body ultimately condenses itself and makes itself into the physical body in what we experience now. But the more disconnect there, it has a ripple effect all the way up and all the way down because they mirror each other. Is there a TCM thing on that? With connecting, what's the TCM of higher self?
It's sort of not. It's definitely not taught in like traditional school, so it wouldn't be your typical like run of the mill aspect. But the way that I can see it is sort of similar to each element has a spirit, right?
Okay.
So each element has the spirit of. Hang on, no.
We're
So
not
what I
there
wanted
yet.
to say in terms of the 5 elements aspect, each element has a spirit,
Yeah.
and so that would be connecting to that part. So, for example, it would be
Right.
broken down into a 5 or 6 part
Yeah.
elemental prospect or something. So, for example, like if you wanted to go into fear, for example, let's go grief, you'd go into the Po, the spirit of the Po.
Right.
And the Po, we have 7 Po, and they're kind of our like deep, dark secrets. And
Okay.
anyway, we've touched on this in both the ancestral pregnancy as well as our 5 elements.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So another way you could do it, looking at it from an energetic viewpoint, thinking of the chakra systems or the energy centers. I can't remember what they're called in TCM, but it's something.
5 elements.
No, the chakras.
We don't talk about chakras.
Excuse me. Jeez.
They have just the 5 elements.
Right. Okay. So red ray, being the grounding force, but safety, security. Orange ray being rhythm, pressure, flow, and it's also our sexual energy, which is our creative energy. Our yellow ray, which is consciousness becoming aware. We're aware that we're aware. Then there's the green ray, which is about love and compassion, connecting. Then there's blue ray, which is all about articulating and communicating. And then there's the indigo ray, which is about manifesting what you want. And that's where kind of hope and faith hang out. And then there's the violet ray, which is if you could see energetic chakra colors, we'll call it, it'll be a total sum report card of that individual. So in theory, it should be clear. But anyway.
So how can we make it clear?
Well, you want to remove blockages first and foremost. So anywhere where there's a blockage, it will show up in life as, so fear, for example, could be red, yellow, or orange ray deficiency, or you can have too much or too little. That's a pretty common one. Anything below the diaphragm would be linked to our animal self, our reptilian body, our safety, sustenance, and sex. Any theme around that will be ultimately linked to that part of us. It becomes less common as it goes up the chain.
Yeah.
So our red ray being rectum, base of the spine, orange ray being the reproductive organs, yellow ray being essentially the solar plexus, digestion.
Green
ray. Green ray is heart, thymus, well-being, giving, receiving. Blue ray, thyroid. Pineal as indigo, and then violets, the above. So if you don't feel safe, then that's a red ray thing. So detoxing, I can go through all that if you like.
Well, I guess so maybe we could, but let's maybe keep it simple and maybe dive deeper next time or another time. But in terms of the detoxing of these specific, so would you say that we want to first, so if we followed that thought, we would therefore probably come to an energy channel or point that was blocked. And then we could work specifically on that part that was blocked and work our way through the energy centers to ensure that they are clear and functioning well.
Yeah.
So could you talk about, for example, what would a red ray blockage look like?
From a physical point of view, it could be anything from lower back pain, lower limb pain, lower limb dysfunction, constipation. It can disrupt pelvic mechanics. From a mental, emotional view, it would be someone living in fear, someone who doesn't feel safe in relationships, especially within family units. Also, maybe even a personal relationship. And it's these people that have a really, I would say, unhealthy relationship with money. Either they hold on to it, or there's no
container.
Yeah, they just spend without any regard. So that's modern day safety security. That would be typical red ray.
And then, okay, so we've identified that there's a problem there. How would we go about cleaning or cleansing that part of our vessel? We've done the healing aspect. So let's say we've moved past the physical. We've identified the lower back pain. We're now doing movement in a different way. We're strengthening, we're toning, we're aware of the fear. So we've written that down, what we're afraid of, maybe where that's implanted in the beginning in this physical realm.
Yeah.
We've identified those aspects. So we're on the path of healing and health and wellness now, and we are very much trying to be healthy. How do we do? Where to from here now?
We need a dream.
A dream.
We need something to reach for.
Okay. So set a goal.
Set a goal. Have a goal that's strong enough that's worth not being fearful of. So that's got to be stronger than your desire to be in fear. You can picture the energy rays lined up. If you're stuck in red, but you can see, let's say, indigo all the way over there. It's like, yeah, one day I want to get there. That's my goal. And you're just determined. Your desire to go there is stronger than your fear to be stuck here. So, okay, I'll do what I need to do to go through.
Cool. Okay, do you want to go, what's the, if we had orange ray sort of dysfunction?
Orange ray, that will show up as likely a will to dominate, firstly. I'll keep it metaphysical. Or do you want me to go through all of them?
Just metaphysical is fine. Because we're already on the health. We've got the body.
We've sorted that out episode 2.
Sweet. We're episode 39.
Okay, so metaphysically it's going to show up as, it would be not only a sexual charge, but also be a life. It's like people get off on dominating.
Okay.
In any sense. That's classic orange ray.
Disharmony.
Yeah, well, good word. Yeah, disharmony. And
all right, how do we pull out of that?
Comes back to the goal as well.
Still need a goal that's going to be more than where we're at.
Yeah. Thing with that kind of energy, and this is where a lot of people, I think, get karma mixed up, where if you were willing to dominate someone, be it sexually or in the workplace or whatever, and that made you feel good, not just for that time doing the thing.
So it's not just like, during a sexual experience, like being the dominant in that moment.
It's being dominant
more
in every
dominating
facet.
everything,
Yeah.
or as much as possible. That feels good all the time.
Yep.
Okay, yeah?
Yep. So with any orange ray, there's an unmet need in there somewhere. So if there's a will or desire to dominate, what's missing? Why isn't it an equal give-take thing? Why do I need to be over you in every sense of the word? Now, some people like that, and that's their thing. All power to them.
Maybe all power to them.
But then there's a point where it becomes dysfunctional.
Okay.
Especially when we're talking energy transfer.
Yes. Yeah, because you can't energetically, that all the time is too much. It's like it will waste away, and that's sort of like the yin and the yang. Like you can go young for so long, and then the minute it flips, it'll flip hard.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you'll go from this fire heat to all of a sudden willowing.
Holy shit.
In complete depression.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So you've started to notice that you're dominating in every experience. You're starting to aware of that.
Like to be dominated. It goes.
Okay, both ways. Yeah. So then I realized that I'm actually like really willing to. You've started to notice that in yourself, and now you've become aware. So now I have an awareness around the fact that I always want to be dominated, say, and I choose situations and I adjust my life to be the dominated person. And so because of that, I'm aware of that. How can I now attune myself to move beyond that, to not have that control me?
I need to find out where I'm out of balance.
So there's going to be a piece within that emotional piece of that.
Imbalance.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that could be within the whole spectrum?
It could be the entire, yeah.
Okay.
There's something, because if you think about it, it's not a natural. So last episode we spoke about the densities.
Yes.
So think about the second, third, fourth density. We're moving into fourth. If we're incarnating into third, but we're transitioning into fourth, that's like level 2.
Yeah.
Kind of mentality or
Yeah.
desire, drive.
Yes. Yeah. In just primal.
Yeah, very, very, very primal.
Primal life, not awareness.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So is awareness is more that 3D, and then beyond awareness is the 4.
Yeah.
Density, not dimension.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. So now, all right. So I guess what I'm trying to do then in this pieces is probably not really
Well, where we're at now is yellow.
yellow.
Collectively, we're in
Okay.
yellow. That's where you want to. That would be where I would want you, as another entity, to want what I want,
Okay.
or to do what I want you to do. So essentially, you become a slave.
Okay.
Move out of orange. But it would be that you would do what I tell you to do in any facet of life.
Wouldn't that be dominating?
It is, but this is more.
Collectively, like
Yeah.
communal.
Yeah,
Like do this
absolutely.
for everyone kind of thing.
I want this population of people to think a certain way, act a certain way, do certain things, but that's what I believe. So you all have to believe what I believe.
Okay.
That is an imbalanced yellow ray, and that just ponder where humanity's at right now.
Yeah, interesting. So how do we heal that part? We look towards the indigo because
Well, first we become aware.
All right. So we have an awareness now.
We have an awareness that there's a spell. We should do one on spells,
Okay, that's next.
because there's a lot of spells, and people think spells are a mythical Hollywood concept, but a spell is just a bunch of words to make you think a certain way. That's what a spell really is.
Be conscious of your words.
So we need to know that first that we're aware that we're aware. Did I say that? Yeah. We can't talk, but we are aware that we are aware. Once we've got that awareness and self-consciousness, that's when we have the desire. You need the desire to want to change and to want to get out of that spell, let's say. Once we've had that desire, then we develop the will
To break the spell.
to break the spell. And that's when you springboard up into, let's call it heart energy. Because you know the self, you've accepted the self. And then you realize, this is my part in the dance. And then you start seeing yourself in the other. Hence the love and compassion.
Love that. And so from your perspective, as a collective, as humans, we are actually all moving towards that 4th density. Does that mean that we'll start to become illuminescent?
100%.
Well,
Yeah. As a mind spirit, not necessarily a mind body spirit. Because eventually we shed the physical body.
oh, is that as we die? We go to the 4th.
Not necessarily.
Do we have to
You're
be-
probably already 4 or 5. You've reincarnated back into 3rd.
Oh, okay, right. My higher self is 4
Yeah.
or 5. Yeah, okay. I thought I was illuminated. And you were like, you're already there. I can see
You
your
are
illumination.
illuminated, Noah. You're already
Don't
perfect.
say it like that. My thinking here is that when you say we're moving towards the 4th dimension, you're not necessarily saying that. In my mind, when you said that initially, thought that we as
You
like
thought I
a
was talking
human,
just about you the whole time.
no, we as a human species are
Yes.
actually moving towards. We will soon be the 4th density
Yep.
over human, like 3rd density.
Yeah. We're in 3rd density vehicles, bodies,
Yes.
but we have 4th density consciousness.
Okay, no, I understand that part, but I had this idea that when you were saying that, we were actually like the whole of the 3rd dimension density aspect that we're in right now is going to
Yeah, it is.
become null and void.
Not null
Like
and
we're
void.
not going to have it
It's
anymore.
transcending into 4th, yeah.
So we're going to have beings around us that are in fourth and
Yes.
we're in third.
Yes.
Because that's already happening. That's already,
Yeah.
because that's who we're connected to. That's
Yeah.
the higher self.
That's aspects of the higher self. Yeah.
Aspects of the higher
But
self.
some people also call them angelic beings.
Okay.
Or
It's okay. Angelic beings is good.
yeah.
So we can't go from, like, we actually need the tangibility of the third density is this, right? Like, this is the third density. The angelic realm, they can't make sound.
Not the it'd be different sound. Because what we call sound, we have a spectrum like that.
Yeah.
But we hear that.
Yeah.
So if you're listening, if our spectrum of light is, say, a meter, what is visible, and the same with either sound or sight, spectrum of light, spectrum of sound, we would see or hear about an inch of that meter. So all this other stuff, like we can't see ultraviolet or X-ray, but we know it's there. If you want to do something mildly cool, you probably won't. But for the listeners, I may have done this. Google pictures of space in ultraviolet, X-ray, and all the different types of imagery, and you see different things between all the planets. It's really interesting to wizard. And
I think
people
it sounds
anyway.
really interesting. I just don't really know when I have the time to. Oh, I have heaps of time. What am I even? What am
Exactly.
I kidding? Who am I kidding?
Timing is an illusion.
Yeah, right. So cool. All right. So I am aware of my thoughts. I am aware that I am kind of been stuck in a certain place. I now want to utilize my higher self, my higher being, I want to be able to connect to my divine email. I want to be able to log in and just be like, all right, show me what's in my inbox. How would one?
One needs to quieten one's mind first of all the noise.
Right. Yep. Okay, so meditation.
Meditation is one technique, yeah. There's some people do it through exercise, some people do it through breath work, some people do it through yoga, any kind of spiritual, what you would determine a spiritual practice. There's many ways.
Of quietening the mind, right?
Yeah.
So that's just essentially, from my perspective, is quietening the mind enough to allow the signal of that intuition to be stronger. Is that what we're talking about? Okay. And then say we want to connect to a specific spirit guide.
Yeah.
We just, then once the mind is quiet, we just call upon them,
Just the intention.
set the intention towards them.
So, yo, what's up?
Should we play that out?
That's really just, I mean, from that energetic chord, it's really, you just think about them and you're connected to them.
Totally.
Because
There's
if
nothing
we're
more than
all, if we're all a part of the same, did you call it soup? What was the soup?
Oh, I can't remember the soup. Yeah, I remember talking about the soup, but I don't know what it was standing for.
Well, the way I'm using it in this is just what's come to me, that we're all, from an energetic, spiritual viewpoint, we're all one big soup.
Yes.
And
That
we're all,
comes from that point, bang, into this point, and then back together
and
again.
then the ego experience is just individual drops of soup. But eventually you go back to the soup.
Yeah, to the whole thing.
So all you need to do is think about the soup and you're energetically back in the soup.
So I'm just
Cool.
thinking, when we have a disharmony, or we're in disharmony with another human. We're just separating from the soup more so, or we're forgetting that we're actually going to go back to the soup.
I think we forget that that there is no soup.
We had a soup.
Yeah.
It then separated into particles, which were human form, which is the collaboration of the humans that we are connected to, walking past, having like one-time encounters with. We are all part of the soup that we have chosen to be part of together. Eventually, when we pass and we move into that higher dimension, we're back in the soup. We're all together in a soup.
Yeah.
And you're saying that when we're in disharmony with others, in these three densities,
While we're a single drop.
when we're single drop soup. When we're there, we actually forget that we're part of the soup. That's what you're saying.
Well, we're ultimately born forgetting we're part of the soup.
Right.
But when we're in disharmony in others, it's hard to be really happy with yourself. Sorry, it's really hard to be not... What am I saying? If I've got disharmony with someone else, that is ultimately a reflection on me because I'm the one perceiving it. So if I'm saying you're this, you're that, got three fingers pointing back at myself. So I'm diagnosing myself essentially. If that's still a thing, well then in the balanced person there wouldn't be an emotion. No, I can't say there wouldn't be an emotional charge. There would be just love. So you, in a perfectly balanced person, someone said or did something to you, your reaction would just be love because you would see them in the light that they can't say that they really are, because in that moment the ego would certainly not see that.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
But that's from the metaphysical, spiritual viewpoint.
And that's like a monk, right? Like that's the whole thing, right? To get to that enlightenment, that point where you just see love.
I think it depends on the monkhood, but yeah, more or less.
Okay, well, I mean, idealism of a monk
well,
is
that's
someone
like the
who...
ideal of enlightenment.
Yes.
Enlightenment is just being full of light.
Yes.
Getting to that point. Yeah.
I don't know if any of these people were parents, though. It doesn't feel like the hero's journey to then to be a parent. Like, I feel like these little droplets are very sometimes dense and like...
Feel like there's something that you want to get off.
No, I mean, I absolutely love my kids and they are just like beacons of light, truly. They are challenging and...
So that's the catalyst, right?
But why?
Well, you chose it, you tell me.
I don't know.
Well, you said motherhood took you down that path?
Yeah.
Well, that's why.
But I know every parent I know would attest to the fact that, I mean, maybe not every parent. I haven't met everyone.
True.
But most parents that I know thus far on this journey have been very much of the same, density, essentially dropping into primal density at times.
Yeah.
And
I think, well, everyone does. That's part of that's part of the human experience. Because I think part of life, you also live through, in a way, energetically at least, every density.
yes, okay.
So that's part of, we'll call it joy. That's part of the joy.
And it's true because I find that when I can find joy in the hard, so when recently, since Aqua's come, we've had a bit more pushback from the bigger kids, and in that I have found as long as I can empathise, I can soften.
I think it's hard to get there as well in the moment.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
In the moment when you've just been whacked across the head for nothing, like a big king hit, that's illegal. That's been outlawed. Not in my home, Lana says. Not in our home.
That takes some monk level shit to
I think
spiritual kung fu.
I mean, it's pretty powerful. And this is the thing for parents and for people, this is why you are so important. That little drop of soup that you are. Yeah, take it.
I will.
You are so important, and what you do is so important for yourself. Like the work that you do on yourself is so important for the collective. And I think
you also do it for the other.
For the other.
Yeah.
Because if I'm well slept, I think that's one of the biggest things for parents, especially young children, but I'm sure of older children too. Sleep is such a important health
thing.
Aspect. And if I've slept well and I've eaten when I'm supposed to eat and I have had my time to self, I'm able to land into those situations pretty well. Yeah.
I think I'm going to bring up an argument that I would have heard, and I know when we start sort of talking about this stuff, well, in my experience with patients, they always, not always, some would bring up, but what about karma? What's your take on karma?
Personally, karma's
Or are you
good.
holding karma in your lap right now?
I think personally, karma is a reaction, a consequence to an action. At least that's how I see it. And so it can be good, it can be bad from my perspective. And I often will, if I say or think something and then I trip,
Yep.
that to
Oh,
me
that's your-
is my instant karma.
Right.
Now, that's how the depths and the layers of that, I'm sure that's what you're about to dive into maybe, but I don't really go into it. It's not, karma is quite an instant thing. If I'm bad, I get bad. If I'm good, I receive good. So a lot of the time with the good, I get a really good feeling. Like it's just like it fills me up in a way. Like I could feel good because I got a really good divine email, and then I feel well, and so then I might cook something and it doesn't taste horrible. And then the same thing the other way.
Okay.
That if
But who sets up the good and the bad?
Well, it's just based on the person. So, for example, I can say that usually if my child hits the other child,
Right.
usually they will fall over pretty instantly afterwards.
Right.
And, it's something that I'll notice
Yeah.
and be like, wow, that got you quick.
And do you often point that out?
There are moments where that is pointed
just commentating on life is all you're doing.
I'm very
With
aware.
no smugness.
You just did something really not so good, and
I'm sure there's no instant gratification involved, just on the minutest level.
teeny tiny part of my soup just goes, gotcha.
Sounds a bit sick when you say it out loud, doesn't it?
Some of the things we do. I mean, this is just a really good therapy session for me to remind me, don't do that.
Oh,
She's part of your soup. She is your soup. We are in the soup together. We're all in this together.
We are human. We forget that sometimes as well. I think my thing with karma would be if you did something, said something, and you felt guilty, let's say, that feeling of guilty would be your karma.
Uh-huh.
I don't think if I'm a prick to someone and they're a prick back, I don't think that's necessarily what it is.
It's the feeling that
because
you
I can
receive.
be a prick to someone and not feel guilty at all.
Therefore, you don't have karma for that.
So then do I generate karma? Because who's that right or wrong based on?
Well, I think that if you are doing something that doesn't work towards transforming you to the fourth density, that to me would make sense. Like if you are sitting in those lower chakras and doing like dominating in a negative way or hurting someone like that sort of.
But if someone does something,
Okay, so you've punched someone in the head, but you don't feel bad about it.
Yeah, for whatever reason.
I mean, whatever.
In a hypothetical.
Yeah, but from my perspective, But
if I don't feel guilty, if I don't feel, oh, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
In
you
fact,
don't have karma?
Like I have zero or might even feel good about it.
Yeah.
Then have I generated karma?
Potentially.
But according to who, though?
According to the law of action-reaction.
But is that what it is, though?
I would
Not
say
debate,
so. I would say what it is.
Okay.
I would say karma is a action-reaction type energy transfer.
Okay.
But I don't know whether it builds up as such. Like I don't know whether I'm of the thought that, if you were a really bad person for a time, that you actually have to get king hit in order to be clean slate,
level,
start again, balance.
Because a lot of past life regression stuff, they're big on you incarnate to sort out your karmic shit all the time. That's pretty much the only. I'm not a big subscriber into that. I think there's maybe sometimes, sure, but not. I don't think that's the only reason we would incarnate. But it's just interesting the fact that if I did, let's say I stole a loaf of bread to feed my family who are in a different dimension.
It was a good reason, like you did it for a good reason.
That was the intention behind stealing
So
said
that's
bread.
an ethical, that's a different thing.
But then society will see, oh, you stole something, especially if it's a Catholic religious type based society, and they will say you're going to get karma. But I'm doing it to feed my family, and I feel good about feeding my family. So I've actually done something quote unquote bad, but then the intention behind it is to support people I love. Therefore, that makes me feel good. Have I generated good karma or what you would call bad karma? Discuss.
I feel like I'm in I'm in my ethics too. And the exact same question was posed in terms of
that one.
Ethics.
Was that question?
Yes, but it wasn't a loaf of bread. It was stealing stealing medication that was essentially life-saving for a life-saving medication that was out of reach because it was too expensive for someone. So the father went and stole it.
Some people call that bread.
Huh?
Some people would see that as bread.
As bread. Yeah. I mean, this is
so it's
exactly the same concept.
Thing,
The man thought it was okay, whereas society would say, well, or the drug company specifically that was trying to sell the drug would say that that's unethical. Or is it unethical? Is it more the other way switch, that we shouldn't have a society where we are withholding something from someone that could help based upon their status? And like that, I think I think that's the real
karma, one could say.
Well, and it's also like, why can't you, why are you starving? We're in we shared this last time about we live in a world where everything is available, a world where we are living like luxuriously. Most people live luxuriously. We live luxuriously. We have extra space. We have space in our lives to just relax and do nothing. We recommend that to people. There's not many human beings in the dawn of time that have had space to do nothing.
Yeah.
Like, we have so many luxuries around us to enable that. Why would it be so that people don't have homes?
Yellow ray.
Yellow ray? Is that the reason?
That's the dominating trickster.
Oh, yellow ray.
Archetype.
Right. Totally.
That, for me, I know again, I don't like using the words right and wrong, but for context, I suppose, you would say that would be generating some kind of negativity, whether you call it karmic or whatever. That's just generating that kind of energy. So that's just what you'll attract. But it's an interesting discussion.
I find the whole, like, that's just like the whole political playground. Like, recently I read a something about one of our ministers in government has a net worth of $400 million. If you are being chosen to support the people, you shouldn't have more money than the people.
I couldn't agree more. I think that's a discussion for another time, because you won't get me. I won't shut up about that.
Okay, Dad.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is very like this. But that to me is karma.
But that's still yellow ray, all of that.
Yeah. And I think I believe that as we move into this new Aquarian age, the age where most people actually good for, and that this might be the part that I actually want you to touch on today now, is that there's a lot of talk out there about the good and evil. So like evil entities, and like I know personally that I will, if I often put like a I don't know if you know of Shokure, but it's sort of like it's a Japanese, like Reiki. It's a Reiki symbol. And I often will put my family in that at night as we go to bed. And like, if I'm feeling fearful or if I'm going on a plane, I will generally wrap us up or wrap the plane up in a Shokure field.
Yeah.
And some people use like the egg of like a a like light, just putting a light force field around them, whatever that might be. Yeah, so what I'm getting at is this idea that evil is around. Is it so? Is that the question? Is evil around? And if it is, where does it sit in the dimensions? Because if we look at the densities, because if we look at first to seventh densities, there's no space for evil except for in the third, from my perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Or the second, maybe.
So evil. Paul Check taught me this. What's evil backwards?
Live.
So if we're not living, we're experiencing evil. It's anti-life. That's real evil. But we came up with a concept of the devil as a catalyst for change, because that the change needed was actually an archetypal form, but we've created a literal imagination of the devil, which sounds a bit weird.
So is there evil spirits?
There's negative spirits, negative entities.
Where do they come from?
Well, they would come from a negative polarity, no certain specific place. There'd be, so with all the third density, fourth density, fifth, etc., there'd be positive and negative.
Oh, there is.
In each one, yeah.
So you could be guided negatively.
Yeah, absolutely. But you can't, so...
Would you choose negative guides?
So from a shamanic viewpoint, you would say if you chose, quote unquote, a negative guide, that would be an entity possession. So it's those people who... Oh, I've completely lost capacity to use language. Like the people that they don't have the will and desire to make something of themselves, very easily influenced.
Okay.
They're the ones who allow that in. But an entity can't persuade you or guide you or do anything for whatever, can't influence you in any which way without your permission on any level. Now, you might think to myself, oh, I would never let that influence me. But then unconsciously, what's your energy doing and saying? And what's it projecting out there? Because that's what because they're in the energetic frequency or realms. That's what you light up to them like a bug. No, moth to a flame type thing. So good or bad, for me, it's either positive or negative. Positive would be you wanting to help others. Negative would be you doing it all for yourself. So you're going to do my bidding. That would be what I would call a negative or evil entity or spirit. But I remember Abraham Hicks saying that we created the devil for catalyst. There is no source of darkness, only the non-allowance of light. And the devil or demons exist only in man's imagination. That's not to say they're not real.
Yeah, because the imaginal or imagination is...
Yeah. It's our perception, right?
Yeah.
Perception is reality. Boom.
Mate, I reckon I'm going to have to simmer on that too. I'm not sure if we got through what I was hoping to, but I guess...
Well, it's a lot of information to digest. So...
Be good, people.
Be good, but give yourself permission to relax.
Point out karma when it happens.
And if you see me on the street, just comment on my shirt in a positive way. Positive affirmations only. Let yourself be human and let the information digest as it will. And see how it resonates physically, not only intellectually.
Yes. All right. Thank you. See you next time.
You've been listening to The Wizard and the Priestess. Thanks for stopping by. Stay connected and be open.